Time for the international papers now. Elena's with us here on set. Foreign press, what have they made of Nicolas Sarkozy, his grand entrance into the political campaign?
Well, there seem to be bigger Sarkozy fans at the Times than at any of the French papers. They say in their editorial that while it looks like the odds are Sarkozy is French toast and he'll be gone in May, at the Times they will miss him, not only because the soap opera at the Elysee Palace has been endlessly entertaining, according to them, but also because Sarkozy has been one of the best foreign policy presidents France has had since the Second World War. At least according to the Times, they point to the intervention in Libya, to Sarkozy restoring France to a full place in NATO after General de Gaulle pulled them out decades ago. They reckon he's been one of the best partners that Britain could have had on things like international economic policy and cooperation, and of course they're quite keen on the liberalising slant of his economic reforms. It's a right-wing paper, so they say he hasn't gone far enough in that direction. Hollande, according to them, wants to take France back to the 80s with what they call his retro financial reforms, and they reckon his win would be a disaster. So they're rooting for Sarkozy at least. The Daily Mail, though, not big Sarkozy fans, although they're also a right-wing paper. Look at this piece. It is headlined "Sarkozy, a Napoleon theme park and the grand European delusion of this second-rate nation." Now, we talked about the Napoleon theme park yesterday, if you remember. The Daily Mail, Stephen Glover, decides to use that to make a nice illusion between Sarkozy and Napoleon, saying both were short and megalomaniacs, according to him, and they'll be glad to see the back of Sarkozy, who tried to impose his own will too much on international events and should have realised that France is a second-rate nation, according to him, at least.
Very Daily Mail.
Very Daily Mail. They don't like French, do they?
No.
Particularly not Sarkozy.
Yeah.
He's also been criticised by left-wing foreign papers. El País, which is, of course, a left-wing paper in Spain, says this is the sunset of an era of hyperactivity in which a lot of noise and fury was made, but nothing was actually achieved except increasing the unemployment rate and making France a worse place to live.
They do sound a lot of obituaries, don't they? Now, another place that's been hard hit, Greece, of course, whose bailout been delayed again. Papers also talking about that.
Yes, a state of paralysis. Greece loses hope, headlines The Independent. Their correspondent has been with a group of people surrounding the ruins of shops that were kicked in by demonstrators in Athens over the last few days. They say that while all the people he talked to said they didn't agree with vandalism, they also all said their wages and pensions have been cut so much they can quite easily see how people come to throw petrol bombs through shop windows. And the paper says the middle class has been wiped out and 30% of people live below the poverty line, so violent reactions become easy to understand. But is the country actually going through a moral crisis as people start to smash up the shops and buildings that used to be important to them? Well, yes, according to the right-wing Greek paper Katimerini, they reckon that what has been lost in the fires in Athens is greater than that which we feared to lose. Greece, according to them, is not only losing in the economic sense, but is losing its civilization, is losing its very identity as people attack shops and buildings in a kind of nihilistic rage. One Greek journalist writing in the Huffington Post says that Greek demonstrators can't exactly be blamed, though, because they've been given so little information, they've been treated so badly by the government and the Troika, that people on the Greek street now no longer really know how to react. Some people are smashing up buildings and others are coming to the scenes of this destruction with candles to sort of mourn them. So altogether they're all driven by the feeling that society is falling apart, he says.
Now, talking of society falling apart, we've got unemployment figures in the UK going up and up and up and up. Papers are talking about that too.
Women swelling the ranks of the jobless is the Independent's front page. They say women are being disproportionately affected, especially in the public sector, where, of course, the government is laying people off. That's not just true in Britain, it's true all around Europe that public sector workers tend to be disproportionately women, so they're the ones who end up unemployed. Look at this interesting piece, also in The Guardian, which is talking about how our attitudes to the unemployed are hardening just as the unemployment rate goes up, not just in Britain, of course, but also in France, where Sarkozy proposed that referendum on restricting unemployment rights. She says that lack of empathy is the worst thing about this unemployment crisis. We should realise it's just not people's own fault.
Elena Casas with the International Paper Review here on France 24.